Hi, YouTube. So this is the chapter 2 out of my book, HUGS, Hearts United Gather Strength. And we're just going to get right into it. Chapter 2, Bama. Since we were just talking about childhood and the loss we can sometimes feel because of traumas we endure, I'd like to take this time to share Bama's story with you. As with many who share their stories with me, her thoughts seem to be all over the place, and that is very normal. Oftentimes, when we are sharing our grief, our mind jumps from one thing to another, even repeating ourselves. Read patiently and with an understanding heart as you read what she has so bravely chosen to share with you. And this is Bama's story. And I admit, when she submitted it to me, I had a little trouble making some sense of it. But as I said, when you're grieving, sometimes, especially if that grief involves trauma, um, it can kind of mix up your memories and your emotions, and so it can be very confusing to try and share your story with others. But this is Bama's story. My mom passed first. My father used to beat her. I left home first at 14. Then, after my parents returned home after a year of leaving my sister and I alone, I watched my dad beat my mom and lost it. He threw me out. I'd return home at age 18 and pregnant. I told my mom when I was 4 months. Her and my father fought. I left at 5 months alone. He died. My father had told my grandma how he had beat her hours previously. She died on Halloween of a heart attack when I was 6 months. I had a baby due to the fact that when my parents got into the fight, I was hit in my stomach. I always kept my mouth shut. At 7 months, I was fully blind, fighting to see. I went home to my dad's, and after 2 days and many needles in my spine, I could see again. A few years later, I would be in Ohio in a divorce. I lost everything. Cars, house, my daughter, and I went homeless. I tried to run to Michigan, but by then my father had a girlfriend. My dad would have been her 7th husband. My father would die on April Fool's Day. His girlfriend said she was making coffee, but there was not a drop in the pot. I felt she had killed my father. He changed his will the day before he died, yet his witness was 8 hours away. The attorney and my sister would steal everything. Then a year later, working as a bartender, my car got ran over by a semi. I took the money and purchased a house. It was my dream. 3 months later, my boyfriend would steal the pipes, destroy the home, and take off. It took me a year to find Mr. Runner, as I call him, as he comes back from time to time, never wanting to get off the deed. A few months later, I had a new man and a new job. He turned out to be no good. He ripped out my pipes also. Then I'm at work and my boss texts me, "Do me or you're fired." Now I'm suing the company. I can't find a job anywhere. And my best friend just up and dies. It was a stroke, then heart attack again on a holiday. Same way both my parents officially died. She was 34. So now here I am, alone in the world, afraid to get close to anyone, and my sister and I don't speak. It's a mess. I'm about to lose everything, all because I'd not do my boss. At age 8, my mom started to drink to forget my dad hit her. It started with a glass of wine here and there. By the time she died, she was on 3/5 a day. Some days I didn't even know who she was anymore. When I was 6, I was raped by my neighbor. I finally told my mom. She told me to keep my mouth shut. When I lost a cousin a few years after my mom, excuse me, I attended the funeral. My mom's best friend looked at me and said, "You look like your real dad." And I said, "Thank you." He said, "No, your real dad." Then told me his name. I asked my father. He hung up on me. This went on for a day. Then he said, "Bammy, I raised you. All that matters." My mom's best friend denies telling me as my grandma got upset. I'm told to leave the past alone. My sister ended up just like my mom, living off a man, kids by different dads, lives on disability. She stays high, I suppose, to forget. I refuse to give up. I don't drink, no drugs, and bust my butt every day to not end up like my mom. I tried it once with my kid's dad to stay at home. He was so abusive. The way I live now is worth not living through hell. My kid remembers everything, and I wish she didn't. She has anger. My father was the one person she'd run to. I always hid the bad of my dad from her. My mom was gone, and he was trying to change. I'm quite always afraid to stick up for myself. Excuse me. On the 12th, my dad's birthday, I submitted papers to go after my sister and the attorney for theft when my dad died. It's very hard, yet I can't watch any of it anymore. She don't work and got everything while I bust my butt to survive. My dad don't deserve it, and she goes through so much with her dad already. He bounces from woman to woman and then expects her to keep up. She's 13 and tired and has such anger toward everyone and takes it out on me because she knows I can handle it. She will call me dumb, stupid, etc. Then say, "I'm so sorry." That's the exact speech my dad and my ex-husband would say. So I'm trying to show her anger is not the key in life. Therapy don't work. It just puts me in more debt. My neighbor tells me daily not to give up. I don't. Yet I find myself each day ready to run and restart life. I try to give my kid a life I never had. And for this, each day is a fight. No one goes through what I go through. They settle for a man and take their checks. I've seen it all too many times, something I refuse to do. Excuse me. And this is my comment here after this. I had an incredibly difficult time reading Bama's story. The horrific events she and her daughter have faced seem to run together like some terrible nightmare. I can only admire the endurance and strength she possesses while she tries against odds to show her daughter a better way. You can hear the frustration and the feeling of being beaten down by life in her words, but I hear something more: determination. She has that never give up attitude that's imperative to be able to turn grief into growth.